This is Bronzewing Farm, where we produce our exquisite Tasmanian mountain pepper. This video is not about Tasmanian mountain pepper, but this remnant 3-acre block of white or ribbon gum, which we have allowed to go undisturbed since 2009. My questions about it are, is this community important in the whole scheme of things? And how old and how tall are these trees? As it turns out, the state government lists the community as threatened, and the federal government lists it as critically endangered. Why is it critically endangered? Since European settlement in the early 1800s, 90 to 95% of all wet viminalis forests have disappeared. Agriculture and agroforestry have taken over the typically fertile soils that supported this ecosystem. The reports list understory species that are a part of this community. So, does our bit of bush have these species? And yes, here they are. Cheesewood, prickly box, dogwood, blackwood, even buzzies, as well as silver wattle, musk daisy bush, and our old favourite Tasmanian mountain pepper. In the densely shaded undergrowth, thick leaf litter is the norm, but in the gullies, enormous tree ferns block out the sun. This tree fern had a 4-metre high trunk, which at 5 centimetres growth per year puts it at perhaps 80 years old. Now, I said this video was not about Tasmanian mountain pepper, but I don't seem to be able to get away from it. Here are a couple of seedlings growing out of the side of a tree fern. Dead trees are also important, as they provide habitat for fungi, lichens, insects, birds, and many other organisms. While our stand of viminalis is pretty uniform in size, we are getting recruitment of youngsters into the block. What about the animals? Apart from the birds that you would have heard in some of the clips, here is the endangered Mount Arthur burrowing crayfish. And my all-time favourite that needs no introduction at all. So, back to the question of how big and how old. This tree has a diameter of 1.75 metres at chest height. Using an app on my phone, this tree came in at around 60 metres tall. I'm a bit dubious of the app, or perhaps dubious of the app operator. It's probably not a good idea to cut the trees down to determine their age through growth rings. So let's go back in time instead. The trees are clearly visible in this 1969 aerial photograph and are casting quite long shadows. (1945) is a different story, with no trees visible, and in fact it looks like there are felled trees on the ground. The 1948 aerial photo wasn't of much help, but the 1956 photo clearly shows some established trees. So, the trees are around 70 years old, and that ties in with the tree fern data. What's next? On one hand, nothing. We will let this wet forest continue to regenerate. On the other, the federal report states that relatively few patches of the ecological community can be considered viable in the long term without active management. In our case, we have had problems with invasive blackberry. Our management has reduced this considerably, but it is still present. Is it important? Chillingly, 30% of the remaining wet Viminalis forest is in patches of land smaller than ours. So yes, we think it's important.